I've been a police officer for 11 years, and in all that time, I've seen things that would make most people quit on the spot. Violent scenes, heartbreaking accidents, domestic fights that looked like they came straight out of a nightmare. But nothing, and I mean nothing, has ever haunted me the way one particular night did. This happened about 3 years ago, on a slow Tuesday shift, the kind of night where the radio stays quiet for hours and you almost feel like you shouldn't breathe too loudly or you might jinx it. I was working solo patrol in the north side of town, the part of the city that's mostly a mix of abandoned houses and small neighborhoods that feel stuck in time. People always said that side of town had a strange vibe at night, but honestly, I never paid much attention to rumors or ghost stories. I was trained to deal with real danger, not imaginary shadows. It was around 2:17 a.m. when dispatch called me. I remember the time clearly because I had just taken a sip of cold coffee and was thinking about heading back to the station early. The dispatcher's voice sounded uncertain, almost like she wasn't sure whether the call was legit. She said they received a 911 hang-up from an address on Oakhill Street, an old 2-story house that had been abandoned for at least a decade. I had passed it 100 times, boarded windows, broken porch, tall grass, no electricity, no residents. The city marked it for demolition twice and still never followed through. The dispatcher added something else that caught my attention. The call didn't just come from the house's location, it came from an old landline number still registered to the property. That shouldn't have been possible. The house had no utilities. The phone line shouldn't exist. But 911 logs don't lie, and a hang-up call still counts as a call. Policy required a check, so I told dispatch I'd take it and headed that way. As I drove down Oakhill, the streetlights flickered like they always did. That part of town never stopped feeling like it was holding on to something old, something heavy. When I pulled up to the house, I expected silence. But instead, I found the front door slightly open, swaying back and forth with the wind. Not wide open, just enough to show a black gap behind it. I thought maybe someone had forced entry, maybe some kids were messing around inside. It wouldn't have been the first time that I radioed in that I had arrived and stepped out of the car. The entire block was quiet except for the low hum of insects and the rustle of overgrown weeds brushing against the porch. I turned on my flashlight and started walking toward the house. As soon as I reached the base of the porch steps, I felt something strange, not fear exactly, but a sort of heaviness in my chest. Like the air was thicker inside the property line. I shrugged it off and kept moving. My body camera was on, recording everything. I announced myself out loud, just like protocol required, police department. If anyone's inside, make yourself known. No response. The porch creaked under my boots. I pushed the door slightly, and it opened with a long, drawn-out groan that echoed through the house. Dust particles floated in the beam of my flashlight, swirling like tiny insects. The smell inside was old wood and mold. The living room was empty except for a broken couch pushed to the side and a few boards leaning against the wall. I took a few steps inside, sweeping my light around. "Dispatch," I said, "be advised, I'm inside the residence. No sign of forced entry. Continuing check." My voice sounded steadier than I felt. When I walked deeper into the living room, I heard a soft thump upstairs. Not loud, not sharp, just a shift, like someone moved a piece of furniture or stepped lightly. I froze. I wasn't expecting anyone to actually be here. My first thought was a squatter or a homeless person hiding out. I called out again. "Police department. If anyone's upstairs, announce yourself." Silenced, I placed my hand on my holster, not drawing but ready, and slowly approached the stairs. My flashlight beam landed on old wallpaper peeling like dead skin. Each step I took made the stairs whine. Halfway up, I felt that heaviness again, like someone was standing just behind me, watching. I spun around quickly, light flashing across the empty living room. Nobody there. But the sensation didn't go away. It just shifted, moved almost, as if whoever, or whatever, it was stepped just out of sight. When I reached the top of the stairs, I noticed something strange. The hallway was colder. Much colder. Like I'd stepped into a walk-in freezer. My breath didn't fog, so it wasn't that cold, but I felt it seep through my vest, my sleeves, even through my skin. The doors to the 2 bedrooms were open, but the bathroom door was shut. My flashlight beam shimmered a little when it passed over it, like the air wasn't still. I slowly moved toward the bathroom. That's when I heard it. From behind the door. A whisper, not a voice speaking words. More like the sound of someone breathing out long and low, almost a sigh. Slow enough to be intentional. Human enough to be real. I froze and listened. The whisper came again, but this time it was followed by tapping. 3 slow, deliberate taps on the other side of the door. I raised my voice and announced myself again, louder this time. Police department. If someone's inside, step out with your hands visible. No answer. I reached for the doorknob. My hand trembled slightly. I turned it. The door clicked open. The bathroom was empty. It was small, nowhere to hide. No shower curtain, no cabinet big enough to conceal a person. The room was dead silent. But the cold in there felt sharper, like it had weight behind it. I checked everything twice, feeling stupid for being jumpy. I stepped back into the hallway. That's when the sound came from behind me, deep inside one of the bedrooms. A dragging sound. Slow. Heavy. Like something being pulled along the floor. I swung my light toward the right bedroom. The beam landed on the floor and traced the path of dust being disturbed as if something unseen had just moved across it. I stepped closer, heart pounding. Who's in there? I called out. No response. Inside the bedroom, the air was stale and thick. My flashlight illuminated old graffiti on the wall and shattered glass near the window. I swept the beam downward. Something crossed the light, not fully. Just a shape. A shadow. It moved quickly, from the corner of the room to the other side, but there was no one there. Nothing that could cast it. Just darkness. I stepped back instinctively. Every instinct in me said something was wrong. Not trespasser wrong. Not danger wrong. Something else. Something I didn't have training for. I told myself maybe an animal ran across, maybe my light flickered. But the shadow had shape, height, shoulders. I backed out of the room, keeping my light in front of me. As I stepped into the hallway again, my radio crackled violently with static. Not normal interference. This sounded like someone breathing directly into the microphone. Long, slow breaths. Then, faintly, almost too quiet to hear, "Get out." A whisper. Clear. Direct. Spoken like someone was inches from the mic. I froze. My throat tightened. Dispatch, did someone transmit? I asked. Static. No response. Then my radio went dead completely. That shouldn't happen. Not inside city limits. Not in a house like this. At that moment, I decided I'd seen enough. I started moving toward the stairs, keeping my light scanning behind me. My boots reached the top step when every light in the house, every bit of illumination from the street through the broken windows, seemed to dim, not go out. Just dim. Like someone was standing in front of the windows, blocking them. I kept going, faster now, refusing to look back. When I reached the bottom step, something made me stop. A sound from the top of the stairs. A bare footstep, one, then another, slow. Heavy. Coming down. I spun around and flashed my light upward. Nothing, but the sound continued. Soft thuds of steps coming down the wooden staircase. Coming toward me. Closer. Closer, but there was nobody there. No weight on the wood. No shape. Just footsteps, coming right down at me out of empty air. I backed up fast, nearly tripping over debris on the floor. My flashlight flickered 3 times and steadied. I didn't wait. I turned and walked straight out the front door, back to my patrol car. I didn't run, I forced myself not to, but every nerve in my body screamed at me to sprint. The moment I crossed the threshold of the house, the pressure in my chest lifted. The air felt normal again. The heaviness vanished like it never existed. My radio suddenly crackled back to life with dispatch asking if I was okay because they hadn't heard from me in several minutes. I told them I was fine, requested an additional unit, and waited in my car with the doors locked until backup arrived. Another officer, Martinez, showed up in about 5 minutes. I told him what happened inside the house, but I didn't mention the footsteps or the whisper. I said the place felt unstable and I thought maybe the old structure was making noises. We both went inside together. And here's the thing, nothing happened. No footsteps. No whispers. No cold air. Nothing. Just an empty old house that we cleared it room by room, found no signs of forced entry, no squatters, nothing disturbed except the dust from my own tracks. Martinez gave me a look like he wasn't sure whether to believe me or chalk it up to fatigue. We filed the call and left. I didn't think much about it after that, at least, not until the next morning when I was called into the sergeant's office. He had my body camera pulled up on the computer. He told me to sit down. He looked pale. He asked me calmly, "Did you see anyone inside the house last night?" I told him no. He pressed play, and dosed. What I saw on that footage still haunts me. My blood ran cold the moment it started. The camera showed me walking into the house, announcing myself, moving through the living room. Everything looked normal at first. But when the camera panned across the hallway, there was movement. A shape. A tall, dark figure standing at the far end of the corridor, its face blurred like static. It wasn't just a shadow, this thing had mass. Shoulders. A head. It was standing completely still, watching me. In the footage, I walked right toward it, but in real life, I saw nothing. Not even a flicker. When I reached the stairs, the figure moved. It stepped backward into the darkness, out of sight. But the camera caught everything. The way it moved wasn't normal. It glided more than walked, like its feet didn't fully touch the floor. Then the footage showed something that made my stomach twist. As I went up the stairs, the camera caught that same dark figure standing just behind me. Not far. Not distant. Inches. It followed me up each step, its head tilted slightly as if studying me. It stood behind me when I checked the bathroom. It lurked in the corner when I entered the bedroom. And when I turned around or swept my flashlight, it darted away faster than a human could move. But the worst moment, the part that still gives me nightmares, was when I reached the top of the stairs. In the footage, the figure leaned in toward the camera, close enough that the entire frame went black around the edges. And then, in a low voice, the same whisper I heard on my radio echoed through the footage, "Get out." But in the video, the whisper wasn't through my radio. It came from right behind my head. My sergeant paused the footage there. We sat in silence for a long time. I didn't have an explanation. I still don't. They sent the footage to tech support, thinking maybe it was corrupted. The official report says, camera malfunction. The unofficial truth, the one I only talk about now because I don't know how else to carry it, is something else entirely. I've been in dangerous situations. I've been shot at. I've been in fights for my life. Nothing terrified me the way watching myself be shadowed by something I never saw, not with my eyes, ever did. I stopped responding to calls on Oakhill after that night. Not because I was scared of ghosts or shadows or whatever that thing was, but because the footage ended with something none of us could explain. As I walked down the stairs in the video, the figure stayed at the top, watching. But right before I stepped outside, it did something that still makes my skin crawl. It raised its hand, and waved. A slow, deliberate wave goodbye. I didn't see that wave in person. But the camera did. Sometimes, late at night, when the station is quiet and the hallways feel too long, I swear I hear that same whisper behind me. Not words. Not commands, just breathing, slow, patient, like it's waiting for me to come back to that house. Or waiting to follow me somewhere else. Whatever was in that house that night didn't want me there, and whatever it was, it saw me long before I ever saw it.